Privilege this time to introduce the keynote speaker for this morning. Dr. Ibeneme currently serves as the chair for marketing management, human resource management, tourism, and hospitality management and business management at the School of Business, University of the Southern Caribbean. He started his teaching ministry in 1989 and taught high school classes from standard 6 to 12. From 1993, he started teaching university classes. He has taught every single course that is offered in most business schools at the undergraduate and graduate levels. He has been in administration, teaching, and research guide for graduate research projects in the School of Business, School of Education, School of Religion at the Andrews University Extension Program, as well as directing and teaching in the off-campus programs of the Southern Adventist University, Collegedale, Tennessee, United States. He has maintained a dynamic and cooperative academic culture, leadership, teaching, and research. He has participated in team-based research and has written many scholarly papers in academic journals, as well as participated in many international conferences. Prior to his serving at USC, he served as missionary to India under the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, where he served as an associate professor, as well as the dean of the School of Business at the Spicer Memorial College in Pune, India. He also served as an associate professor at West Indies College, which is now known as Northern Caribbean University in Jamaica. Before teaching, he has a very good private industrial experience, including a senior position as clerk of works at Equipped IARD in Benin, a senior position as director of food industries at Badcook University in Nigeria. He received his BA degree in 1984 from Andrews University, Barren Springs, a Master's of Commerce degree in 1988, and subsequently a doctoral degree in commerce in 1992 from Mahathwada University in India. In a recent ranking and tenure exercise at the University of the Southern Caribbean, Dr. Ibeneme has received full professorship status. So I'm now, could you give a hand for that? So I now turn by saying, instead of Dr. Ibeneme, you can say Professor Ibeneme. He is married and has 2 children, a boy and a girl. So at this time, I want you to put your hands together and make welcome Professor Ibeneme to the podium.
Protocols observed. Thank you very much, Mr. Edward. And good morning, everybody. Every country needs ideas from other countries in order to move ahead. It is difficult for any country to stay closed completely. Every country needs some kind of interaction with other countries in order to move ahead in growth. And that is why the British poet John Donne says that no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the man. And in that same poem he says, every man's death diminishes me because I'm involved in mankind. So do not seek to know who the bell tolls for you. And I put this same poem during my college days in a song. A part of it, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of a continent, a part of the man. No man is an island entire of himself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the man. And what the ministers have told us this morning is that we need contributions from all over the world in order to make a difference in our economy. And so when I think of John Donne's poem, we begin to think of foreign direct investment, because people, nations, need each other's in order to get ahead. And so this morning, in my presentation, I begin to bring you to the definition of foreign direct investment and some of the factors that will help drive that investment. In fact, my presentation is going to be short because the others that are coming have some bigger things to tell us. And our ministers this morning have also expounded on some of the things that we are going to hear today. I want to take you to the slides that we have right there. Chinese railroad system. This is the Beijing, Shanghai speed rail. I just want you to look at this and then you begin to think about investment. The Beijing Shanghai high-speed rail, and this is the departure area, the departure station. And this is one of the trains, and the train speed is 360 kilometers per hour. And people trying to board the train at the Shanghai station. And we have the crew staff trying and getting ready in order to board the train.
Up and down, twist, rocker, okay, and
And the crew staff are preparing food for passengers on the trip. Business and VIP cars as well as economy class. And there are also dedicated areas where wheelchair and accessible bathrooms and corridors are provided. Now the question is, how did the Chinese do this? We're trying to make a little bit of comparison this morning. How did the Chinese do this? The answer is that they copied the US ideas of the 40s and 50s and combined them with today's technology. And that is how they have been able to do whatever they're doing today. And we consider that in the area of domestic investment. But that domestic investment has come from ideas from all over other areas. The Chinese copying ideas from the United States and then building their own. As we go on thinking and talking about foreign direct investment and domestic investment, Trinidad and Tobago can also do something in this area and maybe much better. If the Chinese can do it, we can also do it. Now we begin to think of a definition, according to my responsibility this morning. Foreign direct investment is an investment that is made by a company or entity based in one country into another, or entity based in another country. And foreign direct investment differs substantially from indirect investments such as portfolio flows, wherein overseas institutions invest in equities listed on a nation's stock exchange. Entities making direct investments typically have a significant degree of influence and control over the company into which the investment is made. Open economies with skilled workforce and good growth prospects tend to attract larger amounts of foreign direct investment than closed and highly regulated economies. And this morning, our guest speakers have told us that this country is trying to do a lot of things in order to attract foreign direct investment. Now, in order to attract foreign direct investment, there are certain factors that will encourage foreign direct investment, and the first factor that comes to play is the availability of capital. FDI is comprised of capital that an outside investor is willing to place and risk within a local region, as we have stated earlier. Conditions in the global capital markets and general economic environment play a role in determining the flow of FDI into any country. A thriving global economy, capital markets, and business environment create large swaths of investable capital. Large amounts of investable capital that proportionately overwhelm the number of sound local investment ideas can cause institutional, company, and individual investors to invest their wealth in emerging and developing markets. Competitiveness. A country's attractiveness as a destination for investment capital rests on its development of infrastructure And that is really very important. Infrastructure, resource availability, physical and labor, productivity and workforce skills, and the development of the business value chain. The level of maturation of these elements can make a country more attractive for FDI relative to other nations that compete and vie for the same investment capital. A growing and developing economy requires infrastructure and resources in order to facilitate the sale of goods and services. Lower transaction costs due to the maturation of these elements enables investors to earn returns on their investments as their enterprises are able to generate profits. Roads, highways, bridges, and other forms of physical infrastructure should be present, should be maintained, and provide sufficient safety for the transportation of goods as well as for the commute of employees. Another component for attracting FDI involves the availability of low-cost and skilled employees who possess the necessary aptitudes, experience and proficiencies to create, to manufacture, and to provide goods and services that can compete in the global market. Then with another factor is the regulatory environment. When a national government enacts and enforces rules and policies aimed at favoring state entities at the expense of privately held firms, such an environment can be detrimental to initiatives that aim to attract FDI. As such, the regulatory environment can either encourage or impede foreign direct investment. Excessive regulation tends to hinder entrepreneurial and commercial activities, as managers and employees must spend more time and money to comply with rules and regulations. If an investor wants to set up a manufacturing facility, high startup costs, legal exposure, and other cumbersome compliance items may encourage that investor to set up the facility elsewhere, where the business climate is more conducive to the industry. Another regulatory determinant involves the government's promotion of investment by providing attractive financial incentives in the form of tax breaks, grants, low-cost government loans and subsidies, government-sponsored financial inducements that provide the possibility of making a business more profitable in a short amount of time. And then another factor is that of stability. Political and economic stability can facilitate an influx of FDI. Stability represents predictability and the opportunity for enterprises to gain better foresight into the future. Alternatively, constant social unrest, rioting, rebellions, and social turmoil are settings not conducive to business. Economic instability can also contribute to hyperinflation, which can render the currency virtually obsolete. Therefore, to encourage FDI, citizens, workers, as well as businesses should have a reasonable basis for respecting law and order. Violence, criminal activity, blackmail, kidnappings, and counterfeit currency and products have all been problems in a country that serve to undermine the efficacy of conducting trade activities. The justice system should also have effective mechanisms for reducing or altogether eliminating rogue and corrupt elements of law enforcement agencies. Another factor, contributing factor, is the local market and business climate. The size of a country's population and market and the prospects for growth that result from this size is a sure bait for foreign investment. Now you may ask, what about Trinidad and Tobago? Our population is 1.3, 1.4 million. Our market is very small, but the minister told us this morning that we can develop markets elsewhere. And so the population of a nation is really very important. But we are in a global situation, and the ability of enterprises that are backed by foreign capital to sell to a sizable local market makes a country an attractive destination for FDI. Higher-end industries such as healthcare, information technology, engineering, robotics, and luxury goods, among others, can gain a bigger footprint in a country as its local conditions, resources, and other FDI determinants are enhanced. Additionally, economic growth and FDI can start a success domino effect, which means that the more the region attracts FDI, the more it grows. And the more it grows and matures, the more investors are willing to provide FDI. And the more FDI flows into the country, the greater the chain reaction, providing a positive effect to sustain such growth. So in that case, you see that there will be a multiplier effect or success domino effect. And among all other factors, the last factor which I've included is the openness to regional and international trade. Market openness serves several important roles in attracting FDI. Of critical importance is a business ability to sell its products and services to both local and foreign markets. If local-based enterprises have limited or no access to foreign customers, such as the United States, Western Europe, Japan and many others, India, Africa, then the local market may not be enough to warrant a significant investment in money and energy. Trade barriers such as tariffs are typically viewed as disincentives by other nations, though there's a lot of argument in this area. Because many nations will have to do something. There must be some kind of trade and protective barriers that can put some people out and protect the local economy sometimes. Export-friendly policies then can play a major role in deciding whether to invest in a country, especially for enterprises that have a large portion of their anticipated market shares located outside the local market. In efforts to create a more business-friendly environment, national, regional, and international free trade agreements are typically initiated by market progressive governments as reasonable mechanisms for inducing economic activity and growth. And I want to endorse what our finance ministers have already mentioned, but I have it right here. In Trinidad and Tobago, the FDI Intelligence 2011-2012 ranks TNT the top 10 in the region. But there's still a lot more to do in order to bring in foreign investment. And TNT is second in terms of best core effective location for investments. It is also the third most attractive country in the region for foreign direct investment, and the fifth in the region for best economic potential, and seventh in best for quality of life, and also seventh in best FDI strategy. And there's a lot of incentives in TNT for investment. There are concessions from import duty on raw materials and machinery. So entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs who want to invest in the country also have a lot of incentives in this area. Exemption from corporate tax on profits and from tax on dividends. Training subsidies for developing new skills. Provision of industrial sites and developed industrial accommodation. Export credit insurance and double taxation relief. And so some of these, among others, these are some of the incentives that are available to people to invest in the country. Many years ago, in India, the government of India earmarked a certain area and use that area as a trial state for investment. And so if you go to that local area to begin your business, the government gives investor 15 years of tax holiday. You're not going to pay anything on taxes up to 15 years. And so within a short time, that state started growing. And many industrialists from around the country started investing in that area. And within a short time, the area started attracting foreign direct investment. And in fact, the first microwave oven that was produced in India was produced in that city, Aurangabad. And I lived in that city for quite some time. And so the question was asked, all those investors that come to that area to invest, did they come in because they love that city? The answer is no. But because of the incentives which the government has provided, and as a result of that, that city started developing and became one of the fastest developing areas in that country while I was there. In conclusion, for any developing economy, foreign direct investment could be the key to spur development and pull the country's economy toward a competitive spot in the global market. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. I said good afternoon, all. I have the distinct opportunity of being the first to greet you good afternoon, all the while you were greeting good morning. When I checked my time, I saw it was afternoon. And we just started. In this short while that we've been here, I believe that we've gained a lot of information from the ministers and our first speaker, Professor Ibeneme. I want to remark quickly on the important points that Professor Ibeneme raised vis-a-vis foreign direct investment and, by extension, even domestic investment. Firstly, he pointed out that there is need for nations to cooperate. Because, as he rightly mentioned, quoting a poet, no nation is an island, and that extends to our understanding of foreign direct investment. No country can go it alone, as we always, as I usually do mention in the classroom. No government can create enough jobs for every person. So it becomes important for us to think in terms of becoming investors, entrepreneurs. Doing so, you may either do it locally or invite foreign investors to collaborate with you. So we look at economic development, therefore, in terms of collaborative investment, cooperation, and that's the point that Professor Ibeneme made very succinctly. And he actually started by taking us on an excursion to Shanghai, China. And I believe we all got the picture where he was going to. That excursion was not just to show us the beautiful pictures of the vast trains of China, but to focus our minds on the need for domestic investment. Because if you, as you mentioned, those were domestic components to China's growth. Those rails move the economy. And that, I believe, was the main reason why he was taking us through the excursion. Dr. Ibeneme also mentioned that competitiveness rests on the availability of infrastructure. This is very crucial, because if we want to invest and grow, either by inviting foreign investors or investing domestically, there has to be that enabling environment. Enabling environment could be in terms of availability of infrastructure, or, importantly, policy infrastructure. But crucially, real infrastructure in terms of public good has to be available so as to facilitate the rapid development of the economy. Let me dissect this a little bit. When we are talking about economic development, we are talking in terms of competition. All the countries of the world, including, of course, America, does compete for foreign direct investment. You may be surprised that they have all the money. But yes, America does compete for foreign direct investment. And to be able to compete successfully, necessary infrastructure and enabling environment and policy stability have to be put in place. Therefore, we could say that infrastructure is an important component. And looking back to Trinidad and Tobago, how competitive is Trinidad and Tobago vis-a-vis the attraction of foreign direct investment? there are so many countries, like I've said, that require or need to attract foreign investment. And I'll give you a quick example. In 1979, when Mikhail Gorbachev initiated a policy of glasnost and perestroika, it resulted in the implosion of the former USSR. And then you have so many of the stans states, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and so many other stans, I call them stan states. What does it mean for us as developing countries that need to collect and attract investment? Because these were semi-European countries, fairly developed, MIDCs as we call them, middle-income developed countries. Because they've got some of the infrastructures in place already. And they are competing with developing countries to attract foreign direct investment. The field, therefore, for attraction of foreign investment got murkier because there are many more countries competing for a particular pool of foreign direct investment. Ibeneme therefore made the point that we need, if we are to attract enough foreign direct investment, to put our infrastructure in order, put our policy in order, and of course, this has again two parts: the domestic aspect and the international aspect. The domestic aspect can be handled by way of policies, but the most important is the international aspect. How do you impress foreign investors to come to your country? Because of course you may make policies. Those ones you can change. Those are internal dynamics that you can change within the country. But it has to reflect the external. It has to be juicy enough to be able to attract foreign investors to come and to invest. So those are the issues that we have to think a permanent solution to if we are to compete, like the minister mentioned in the morning, Singapore, because it's always been a challenge to me. Been to Singapore a couple of times, and I discovered that that country has a lot in common with Trinidad and Tobago. Whereas the minister mentioned they are number one in so many areas. I think we can, as a country, imbibe the model that has catapulted Singapore so far ahead, and move from the point where we are to a greater height. Because of course we cannot rest on our laurels, because we've heard that we are ranked number 5, number 7 in different stages. But we need to keep climbing. Professor Ibeneme has given us a good insight into what domestic and FDI is, and I would want us to, one more time, give him a big round of applause. And at this juncture, I would want to ask that we ask questions, and I believe the presenter is capable enough to enlighten us more.